It's another fine day at Camp Dynasty. I am Counselor Austin, joined by Counselor Collin. And right now is a beautiful time in the sports world. In the football world, training camp has kicked off. The tweets are being fired off at a rapid rate. Every one of your rookie draft picks is doing incredible and looks like the steal of the draft, looking like a big role coming up this season for them. Insert name here.
unless you drafted Quentin Johnston last year.
Yeah.
Then he's the worst player of all time and can't catch a pass.
It's actually funny because today I was like, has there been a single bad camp tweet? Like, is there a single player that is like, well, he's not having a great time? And then one of our friends was like, Quentin Johnston. And I was like, of course. There it is.
That's the one.
And Kendre Miller, stay healthy or you're getting cut.
Oh my God.
Those are the two big ones so far.
Yeah, Dennis Allen getting on the podium and being like, yeah, you're not going to last in this league if you're always hurt. It's like, all right.
Thanks, Dennis.
Jeez. Okay.
All right. Well, you know what? Camp Dynasty legend Kendre Miller, maybe he'll get his opportunity somewhere else, but
rest in peace, Kendre.
And outside of the football world, there's also some special things happening in the world of athletics. And that, of course, is the 2024 Summer Olympic Games in Paris, France. Are you an Olympic fan, Collin? Do you watch the games?
I watch here and there. I obviously tune in to gymnastics. Simone Biles, unbelievable. I keep in touch with the basketball games. It's hard, especially when it's not in America or in like the Western hemisphere because the time zones are so different. So like Simone Biles is performing at like 5 a.m. and then like a basketball game's on at 11 a.m. and it's like, I'm at work. Like I can't actually sit down and watch these, but I'll go back and I'll parse through, see what happened, watch some like reruns of the stuff. But yeah, I do enjoy the games and, get a little patriotic for once. How about you?
That's the thing. It's like, I don't look forward to it. It's not like a thing that I'm like, man, I can't wait for the Olympics. But then when it comes around and it's kind of on in the background and you're like, what's going on here? Like, what's the deal with fencing? And then all of a sudden you're enthralled in a gold medal fencing final. And then, the patriotism finally comes through. You see the USA doing anything, and you're like, God, that if you don't win, you have failed. You have failed your country.
Yeah, you see like LeBron holding the flag on the boat going across, and it's like, oh God, I want to sing the national anthem.
So. Yeah, I mean, it's a fun time. Try to keep up with it as we can. Gymnastics, swimming, always two good ones to try to catch up with. And then, of course, basketball. I was watching some rugby today also. Now, I'm exploring the idea of maybe becoming a rugby fan after that experience because it was very exciting. It was women's rugby. And it was very violent and exciting. And so I don't know.
I wonder. So I know this is a question about like a lot of different sports, but like if America poured all their resources into like rugby instead of like American football, like could we just be the best at it? Like if we're sending like Derrick Henry out there, like is he just like the best rugby player in the world? Because it's obviously a completely different play style, and like these guys are built very differently from like NFL players. So I wonder.
Yeah, I mean, and then we get the other side of it when the rugby player comes to the NFL, like the Chiefs guy. I'm sorry, it's a hyphenated last name. I don't want to even try it right now, but I think his first name is Lewis, so we'll stick with that. And then it's like, can he even make a team? And the answer is usually no, he can't. So it's
Lewis
weird.
Reese Zamet?
There it is.
The one.
That sounds right.
Yeah.
So
I wonder if that's like a play style thing, because you think about like how the sport is played. It's so different from football where it's like the scrums and the pitches, and I don't know.
I mean, just the terminology standpoint, I feel like if you don't know football, like terminology, and you get handed Andy Reid's playbook, like how's that going to go for you? But
Jordan Mailata was a rugby player.
That's right. Yeah, Australia.
Haoli Nada, he was a rugby player.
Wow.
Those are the two. Yeah, and then kickers. But I mean, those are two good players.
Yeah, great players. So maybe we're gonna start something here. Maybe there's gonna be a pipeline that opens up. But the women USA, they're in the semis, I believe. So we have a chance. We're playing New Zealand, which sounds like a great rugby country. I don't know for sure, but
I feel like New Zealand and Australia got to be good at rugby.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what it is, but that just feels like the heart of it.
Yeah, they're both in the semis, so I think we're on to something here. But anyway, besides all of that, why are we talking so much about the Olympics? Well, you kind of already know. It's in the title of the episode, people. It is the Summer Camp Olympics at Camp Dynasty. We are merging two worlds. We are celebrating the current events of the sports world alongside of some of our 2025 campers. What does that look like? We are going to be running through several position groups, all of the position groups actually today, and each one has 3 Olympic sports tied to it. These are all summer games that are happening in the Paris Games. So I verified that we're not just pulling things that disappeared in like 1984. No baseball. That's sometimes an Olympic sport. That's not a thing this year. So
you know what? Flag football going to be in the 2028 Olympics.
Ooh, that's fun.
Yeah.
Can we get apparently some NFL players in that?
NFL guys are interested. I wonder how that'll work out contract wise.
Ooh, yeah.
Because I'm sure teams aren't super interested. Kind of like basketball where it's like, yeah, you can play, but you can only play like 30 minutes. Like you cannot like put the team on your back. Giannis, I'm talking.
So unfortunate, honestly. Like I want to see NBA guys go all out in the Olympics. Like
I agree.
But whatever. That's a tangent for another day. So we are going through 3 sports for each position group. Those sports will correlate to a football skill. And we will be handing out the gold medals to 2025 campers that achieved greatness, or we think will achieve greatness at those skills. So some of them, we're going to have some fun with this. It's not, there's a little bit of gamesmanship and stretching the boundaries a little bit, but it's a fun time, and we are going to, celebrate. So let's do it. Let's kick it off. I think you're starting quarterbacks, and I'll hand it over to you to run through your first sport and what that means.
All right. So our first sport in the quarterback area is archery. What is archery all about? Hitting the target on the bullseye. Accuracy. And so for my gold medal winner for the archery competition, best accuracy, I got Shedeur Sanders. So Shedeur is known for a lot of things, and many of those things off the field, some of those things on the field, maybe taking pressure, taking a few too many sacks. Don't care about that right now. What we're doing is we're standing still, we're delivering to a target, and Shedeur Sanders does that with the best of them. Currently 68.5% completion percentage with 435 attempts. That's 9th most in the nation and the most among the campers. So, and that's with a horrible offensive line also. So we're talking about a guy who can do it under duress, but when he's not under duress, can do it even better.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'm trying to picture like how this archery game would have went with these quarterbacks, and I'm thinking it might not have been close. I think Shedeur might have kind of smoked the field on this one, because we've had a lot of questions about the accuracy of the quarterbacks in the 2025 class. It is not looking like a strong group, as we have talked about. But I think one of the things with Shedeur is that when he has the time to throw, maybe it doesn't look mechanically, perfect and clean, but he is one of the only quarterbacks that I watch that I feel confident in saying can consistently make these touch throws, these layered throws, varying his delivery to fit the window that he is throwing into, and ultimately being a pretty damn accurate quarterback. So I think, like you said at the top, there's certainly questions about Shedeur both on and off the field, but yeah, I love it. Gold medal, Shedeur Sanders kicking off the Camp Dynasty games.
Our next event for the quarterbacks is boxing. Now, this might be interpreted a couple different ways. You need good feet for boxing, but what we're focusing on is the haymaker, the power punch. We're looking at arm strength here. And who has the best arm strength in the nation? Out of our campers, it's Jalen Milroe. So Jalen Milroe, I mean, again, we got a lot of questions about him, as we do all these quarterbacks. But one thing he can do is he can sling that thing, and it goes. So we're talking ADOT, average depth of target, 13.4. That's fourth in the nation. Yards per attempt, 10.0, first in the nation. And big time throw percentage, 9.1, which is second in the nation. The kid can uncork the deep ball. I can tell you that. It might be that, and if that's not there, we run the ball, but that's okay in this situation because we're just trying to see how far it goes. And Milroe, he can get it deep.
Yeah, another one. I think this is there's at least another name or maybe two names that I think would have challenged him in the ring in this event, but yeah, I mean, he's just got a missile. And I feel like he found more confidence in it as well as the season went on, both in taking more chances down the field, testing the limits of his arm a little bit. And then you see that sort of start to materialize, like you said, in some of these big time throws and ramping up the ADOT a little bit, not just being this, dual threat that's kind of dinking and dumping and then running the rest of the time. No, he was taking big chances down the field in big moments. So, no questions at all about Milroe's arm.
And then next up is our gold medalist for the Javelin contest. This maybe dips into arm strength a little bit, but that's the point. We're talking about arm talent. This is a combination of arm angles, talking about arm strength, talking about, on the run maybe. And for this, we got Quinn Ewers. Quinn Ewers, he can do a lot of things with a football. One of those things might be giving it to the defense, but that's okay. Might not be the most accurate quarterback we have, but he can throw it from a variety of different arm angles. He can throw sidearm, kind of change his slot depending on where the defenders are, and he can get it up over the top, and he can throw pretty deep. So this is a guy that was in contention for arm strength, maybe threatened for the podium, but really came into the javelin competition and did well.
Yeah, this is a good example of how arm strength and arm talent differ, because I totally agree with this. This is a runaway, I think. Yep. Quinn Ewers,
I 100% agree.
Totally has the best arm talent in this class. It's why he's so high on our quarterback list, and in your case, quarterback 1. And because there just aren't players in this class that you trust have the level of an arm that he does, where maybe it's not all put together yet. Maybe he's not playing the position at the level he needs to be, but there is no question about what he can do with his arm. And a lot of times it is all his arm because his lower body mechanics are so all over the place so often. He is making these ridiculous throws and deep throws with mostly his arm. And there it is. That's arm talent right there. So I'm excited to watch Ewers this year. I'm starting to get a little bit more excited. We did our positional rankings, back in June. So now it's like you can smell college football in the air. We've all been playing the game. I'm excited to see this Texas offense and what kind of jump Ewers took this year.
Amen.
All right. I guess you're passing the baton or the Olympic torch to me. To carry on this next category, which is wide receiver. So fun wide receiver group. This was an interesting, group of games. We had a few close matches. We are starting things off with fencing, and this equals the best route runner in this class, because after all, fencing is all about a little bit of, strategy and sleight of hand and precision and all of these things that go into running great routes. So the gold medalist in Camp Dynasty's fencing event is Evan Stewart, the wide receiver from Oregon, transfer from Texas A&M. We had some questions about Stewart in terms of his size, being a lighter player, being a player that, can he deal with the physicality of being an outside receiver consistently at the next level? Some questions about his hands. None of that applies to his route running. He is a 3-level route runner. He is in some cases, a devastating route runner. He will put guys in the dirt on these short routes, slants, quick outs, but he's running the whole tree. I mean, I think I've seen at least one route of every type on his film from the last 2 years at Texas A&M, whether that be, these quick slants where his explosiveness really, really shows up in a huge way, or deep down the field running posts and flies where his speed kind of takes over. And I mean, this also kind of goes into his ability against press coverage where, yeah, you have some questions about guys when they land their hands on him, like how does he respond to that? But for a player of this size, playing on the outside, you don't really have big questions about him against press coverage. That is such a common thing with these smaller, thinner receivers at the college level. You see plenty of that with Evan Stewart, beating press in a variety of ways. His releases are varied. They're very explosive and quick, and also really good player against zone coverage. So I think all around, you are not too worried about this player's ability to get open. Evan Stewart, best in the class.
Yeah, one thing that you didn't mention is footwork in fencing.
There it is. Yeah.
It's big. And Evan Stewart is great with that. I think he is definitely the best route runner in the class. He pairs that with blistering speed, which creates a matchup problem for a lot of these guys. And like you said, there might be other questions when we're talking about a guy who's gold medaling in a single event. This is why. I mean, like you said, winning at all 3 levels, winning with a variety of different routes. I mean, this one wasn't really close for me.
Man, shout out Evan Stewart. I got a shout out real quick. We got the online Dynasty rolling on College Football 25 right now, and one of our friends is playing as Oregon. Evan Stewart is currently averaging 49 yards per reception through 6 weeks. So I was good like, player. Yeah, good player. But all right. Rhythmic Gymnastics is our next one. This is where we get to have a little bit of fun. What the hell does Rhythmic Gymnastics have to do with wide receivers? Well, the thing about all of the different varieties, but I'm thinking a lot of like the floor, where it's a lot of running, jumping, doing some crazy jaw-dropping things that you're like, how can the human body physically pull this off? This category for wide receivers is who has the best highlight reel of catches? Who is the best highlight-worthy catcher in this class? So we're talking pure catch point ability, and this was a really close one. I had a pretty hard time with this one. If we're talking about, gymnastics scores, we're going into the hundredths, maybe the thousandths on this one. But our gold medalist here is Trey Harris from Ole Miss. So we talked about, Harris's deficiencies maybe athletically, and specifically as a player that is playing outside at the X position, when he is put in these vertical situations and he's not winning those routes, not separating vertically. How does he win then? By going over the top of people and consistently making these crazy highlight catches. I mean, the stats might tell you one thing, which is that he had 10 contested catches on 28 opportunities for 35.7% last year. But I'm talking straight up, when you come down with that thing, what does it look like? And I think Trey Harris just plain and simply has the best reel right now of crazy catches. I think the thing that sold it for me was that Texas A&M game last year, where we gave him a badge because he just took over that game, and it felt like every single one of his catches was a highlight grab, including maybe the best catch outside of Ricky Pearsall of the season, where he's like falling out of bounds with 1 foot inbounds and catches it one-handed, like his arms behind him, brings it in. Insane. So there's a lot of receivers in this class that had a bid for this. There's a lot of really talented catch artists here, but I gave the nod to Trey Harris.
Yeah, deservingly so. I give tens for this pick for the gold medal. I mean, there are a lot of guys in this class that make some crazy catches, like you said, and people might be thinking, oh, what about Tetaroa McMillan? Like, hey, he can be a runner-up. He can make it on the podium, but even though he's a better player, it doesn't mean he has a better reel than Trey Harris. I mean, Trey Harris does some insane things. You know, the one-handed grabs, like you said, through contact. I mean, he's skying over people and making some nasty contested catches. So, I love Trey Harris, and this is part of the reason why. I mean, some of the things you just like, I don't know if anybody else in the world can do that. And that's how I feel watching gymnastics also. It's like, how in the hell is that even possible, So I feel the same way watching Trey Harris sometimes.
Shout out USA picking up that bronze today. I'm not a plugged in gymnastics person, but I heard this is our first medal for the men in a long time. So kudos to them. But all right, last game for wide receivers then is climbing. When do wide receivers need to climb? In the red zone.
Yeah,
this is best red zone threat. And here is where we are going to invoke the name Tetaroa McMillan. Gold medalist, very close silver medal in the rhythmic gymnastics, but he takes climbing pretty handily. 10 touchdowns.
Handily? No pun intended?
Oh, nice. I didn't
it's too easy.
10 touchdowns for Tetaroa last season. That was tied for 16th in the country. But, I mean, when you watch how Arizona was using him in the red zone, I mean, a lot of the guys above him are deep threat guys. I mean, Malik Neighbors is up here. McMillan is just an unfair advantage in a lot of cases in the red zone. I mean, when you watch, several, maybe even more than 50% of his touchdowns are just them throwing it up on these fade routes, on these quick little routes in the red zone where he is up against a player that is, 6 inches or more shorter than he is. And when he is, using his full extension as he typically does, we're adding even more distance between what a corner can do and what he can do. And no question about the hands, he's going to bring it down. We talk about the 2.2% drop rate last year. I mean, it's just, they're vice grips. And you need that on the rock wall. He's got it there, and he's got it here in the end zone. So, Tetaroa McMillan is a touchdown machine, and I'm excited to watch him both this season and doing that in fantasy in the NFL.
Yeah, hand strength, arm strength, talking about like forearms and gripping the smallest little cracks and crevices and seams that you can find on the rock wall. I mean, McMillan is built for that. When he goes up and he plucks the ball out of the air, vice grips is a great way to put it, because he has some of the strongest hands I've seen with, some of the softest catches I've ever seen. And in the red zone, it's unfair. I mean, it's hard to look at this guy and not be like, I mean, he could win every gold medal, like this guy, like does physically just an unbelievable player. So this is a runaway. Like it's not really even close.
Yeah, I do find it kind of hilarious just because we were talking about Quentin Johnston to just like continually see in year two these I can't even call them highlights, these clips of him in camp still trying to use the body to catch deep down the field and not tracking the ball. And then you watch a player like Tedero McMillan who's just always up, extended, plucking, securing, pulling it in. I mean, it's just night and day with guys like that. So, all right, that's enough Quentin Johnston dogging for one show. Maybe we'll get back to it, but we're gonna move on to the running back games.
All right, so I was responsible for scoring the running back games, and first of all, we're going to weightlifting. This one's pretty self-explanatory. We're talking about power runners. And in this one, with our gold medalist, we have Omarion Hampton. Omarion Hampton, I mean, talk about a guy that runs through tacklers with ease. The stiff arm, I mean, talking about like pressing people away from you. These guys don't even have a chance. The lower body, the upper body, it's all comes into one with Omarion Hampton. 4.22 yards after contact per attempt, which is third in the nation. 1,072 yards after contact is first in the nation. That says it all. I mean, this is a guy that just does not get brought down by the first tackler and will power through multiple tacklers in the red zone to find that goal line. I mean, it's a impressive player. He's hard to take down. He will run through you.
Just an absolute dog, man. Like such a fun watch, Omarion Hampton. I mean, you spit the numbers there. I mean, over 1,000 yards after contact. He looks for contact. Like he wants that contact. And in some cases to his detriment. But I think he just has that dog mentality where he wants to take on guys. He wants to lower the shoulder and he wants to come out on top of that interaction. And a lot of times he does. So we've had a lot of conversation about him. This is my number one running back heading into this college football season. Excited to see what kind of growth that we see from him, a player that had a phenomenal season for North Carolina last year. What can we expect? What can we see, in this new offense without Drake May? But yeah, weight room, nobody's touching Omarion.
Next up is swimming. This one not as apparent maybe, but this is the elusiveness. We're talking about being smooth in the water. We're cutting in and out. We're flipping, turning, getting back to the other side. We're doing laps around people. And I have a gold, silver, and bronze medalist for this.
Ooh, okay.
We'll start with the bronze medalist, actually. We're going Devin Neal. So Devin Neal, we've talked about him a lot. We talked about how he's kind of a ghost in the open field. It's hard to really get your hands on him. Tough to get him down with the first guy. We've had our talks about, running between the tackles and running through people. We're talking elusiveness only, and Devin Neal belongs on the podium. And then we got Ashton Genty. Ashton Genty. So we got Ashton Genty. Incredible in the open field. He made a strong run for the gold medal in this. It was hard to judge, but the opposition that he's playing against maybe hinders him a little bit. But again, hard to take down the open field. 82 missed tackles forced is second in the nation, and 8 ahead of our gold medal winner, who is Quinshon Judkins. So Judkins, you look at this guy, and when you talk about making people miss and then the work he does in the backfield, cutting and moving and shifting, he deserves the gold medal in the elusiveness race. He deserves the gold medal in maybe a couple other races. If you were to compile all these events and you look at Quinshon Judkins, the guy can do a lot of things, but his number one trait is how elusive he is and how he works and how good he is with his feet and how he can make people miss. So I got Judkins number 1 here.
Yeah, I mean, I totally understand why we got a podium on this one. I feel like this is a photo finish with the top 3. And I mean, Quinshawn, no surprise to see, I feel like he's the favorite in this event and he comes out on top here, but some stiff competition. I mean, I talked about Devin Neal becoming my number 5 running back heading into this season, just based off of the fact that when you have this elite trait, when you're coming in with a hallmark characteristic in the way that Neal's elusiveness acts for him, that is something that is going to put you pretty high in rankings before, when we're talking about the anticipation of watching a player in his final season. So I love that. Genty, I mean, it speaks for itself. The stats are just mind boggling. And we talked about why he wasn't in our top 5 based on the strength of his competition. And that's not always just like as easy as it is. Like, oh, he didn't play good team, so he's not a good player. It's like, but when you watch him, when you watch some of these games and see how he's putting up these numbers, you kind of say to yourself, okay, yeah, I understand that San Diego State might not be the best team tackling in the country, but I will say I'm very excited because Boise State plays Oregon this season, and that is week 1, I believe, because I think Boise State's first game is week 0. So week 1 for Boise State will be Oregon. That'll be exciting. And then they also play Oregon State later in the year. So some interesting games where we might get to see Genty in a new light. I'm excited about that. He's gotten a lot of buzz and talk. I've seen some of the big draft, names out there talking about Genty. So I'm excited to watch him this year. But yeah, like I said, I mean, it's no surprise to see Quinshawn walk away with the gold, especially after the clip that dropped on Twitter of the 8 spin moves straight into the end zone. I think he's been banned, if I've heard correctly, and like people who play for money online, you can't use Ohio State or you can't use Quinshawn because his spin move is broken. There's a reason for that. It's because he's the most elusive back in the class. So here you go.
And then last but not least for the running backs, we have the triathlon. And the triathlon for running backs are rushing, receiving, and pass blocking. As you know, we value pass blockers. That's how you get on the field, damn it. So this is where Genty brings home the gold. Talk about pure production. We have 1,344 rushing yards. That's 7th in the nation. We have 44 receptions for 578 receiving yards. 44 receptions is tied for 1st in the nation. He also has a 91.6 receiving grade, which is insane for a running back. He also has a 59.5 pass block grade, which is 12th in the nation. He gets dirty in the backfield. He's not letting you get hands on his quarterback. 59.5, not like an incredible blocking grade, but like I said, 12th in the nation. So it's pretty good for a running back. This guy, talked about him a little bit when he's on the podium for elusiveness, but coming here for the triathlon, the guy is a well-rounded back. He can do a little bit of everything. He can do stuff after the catch. This might be a steal later in the process if you're looking at, somebody who goes to a small school and might get discounted a little bit because of that. I mean, he can do a little bit of everything. He can be a 3rd down back, but he can also tote the rock.
Yeah, I'm extremely curious to find out what this season looks like for Genty because of the momentum. I mean, I don't know if we've explicitly said it, but like true junior this year. I mean, last year as a true sophomore, he's rushing for 1,300 yards, 14 touchdowns, and all the receiving accolades. I mean, the pass blocking, like you said, I mean, from what I've seen, some room for improvement, but like not terrible. And especially for a player that's mixing it up so much on passing downs as a receiver. So I think I totally agree with this. I think heading into the year, maybe there's only one other player that I feel extremely confident can handle the level of versatility that is required of running backs. You hear the clips. I mean, they're talking about this in training camp right now, how important it is to have that all-around skill set to be a back in the NFL. And this is a player that has all of those tools, all of those skills already in his bag. So hopefully a good year, and he might end up getting drafted even higher than, we're thinking right now. Am I up?
You're up. That's all my running backs.
I'm up. All right. Last position group then. No, we did not include tight ends because, we
don't care about tight ends.
Yeah. You could have got in on receivers, guys, if you were good enough, but no Brock Bowers this year. But so IDPs, we have starting off tennis, Olympic tennis, sideline to sideline. We're gonna talk about lateral ability. You got to get backhand to your forehand and keep moving. So I just said it. Best sideline to sideline player in this class. I don't think it's hard. I think this is a gold medal, a dominating performance on the tennis court for Harold Perkins Jr. There's absolutely no questions about the athlete Harold Perkins, and the rest of it is, the football side of, okay, he's learning the softball position. Okay, he looks a little raw there. Okay, he's undersized. Can he hang at 220, maybe even less pounds right now? But none of that really matters when you put on the film and you see his ability as a linebacker to cover the length of the field in all directions. Talk about him dropping back into coverage. He can get into his zones very, very quickly. Ball carrier, he knows how to get there. And if he's on the opposite side of the field, he can run that player down. And if that player is a breakaway runner, like the Cody Schrader example I brought up a couple weeks ago, he can get to that player too from 20, 30 yards down, near the line of scrimmage, get upfield and make that tackle. So Harold Perkins, absolutely no questions here about his athleticism at the linebacker position. And this was a easy gold for the LSU talent.
Yeah. This was a runaway, you might call it. This guy I
see what you did there.
Can get from sideline to sideline like nobody else. So this is the most athletic linebacker in the class. And it's like you said, the questions with him, is he going to be an edge? Is he going to bulk up? Is he going to stay at linebacker? Can he cover a little better? Like all these questions we have circulating don't matter in this case because this guy can get everywhere on the field in an instant. And he is just a really impressive athlete that packages into a player who is really interesting. Good football player at the college level, but hard to project at the NFL level.
Yeah, man, I've been thinking a lot more still about linebacker size and can a player at 220 survive in the NFL when he has this level of athleticism carrying him? I think we've seen players like this fizzle. I think we've seen these hybrid players just not find their home. But you keep looking, you keep finding the player. Go to your dynasty linebackers right now. Look at their weight. Hard to find guys over 235. A lot of guys at 230. Yep. Some guys lower. Some guys 225, and they're playing right now at a high level in the NFL. So I don't know that the size is going to be the breaking point for Perkins. If we see that jump at the position this year that we need to see, then I think we might be in for a scenario like the mock draft we ran through last week where he was going 13th overall and maybe a first round dynasty rookie pick. So anyway, let's move on to artistic gymnastics. So we got rhythmic down. Now we got artistic gymnastics. We got some of the props that they bring in. Trivia question that I had recently playing trivia called them apparatuses. Very confusing way to put it. I don't consider a hula hoop or a ribbon an apparatus. But anyway, this is the best finesse rusher in the class. We got to have a little technique. It's not all just, bull rushing and running through guys. So my gold medalist in artistic gymnastics is Nick Scorton, the edge from Texas A&M, transferring from Purdue. This was the number 1 edge rusher in the portal this year. Briefly got a mention on our IDP rankings at the end as an honorable, as a player that I think has a lot of opportunity to kind of make his way into this edge group of the class. I don't know that we're going to have somebody on the level of a James Pierce Jr. when it's all said and done, but I think a tier 2 might start with Nick Scorton because I think he's going to have a big year. Why is he coming in at the finesse point? Because I talked about him being a player that is listed right now at 280, 6'4", 280. What? He's a finesse rusher? Well, he has one move that he likes to go to a lot, and it works a lot of the time, and it's the spin move. I mean, he's hitting swims and rips, and like he's working at a very technical level. But then you just see this huge beast of a man ripping these spins time and time and time again and winning these reps over and over and over again. And I think I recently saw like a former pass rusher from the NFL come out and be like, you don't ever have to use a spin move. Like that's not a thing that you ever have to do. But
tell Dwight Freeney that.
Yeah, right. Exactly. We've seen it work. And when you have it at this level, at the Freeney level, it works pretty well. So Nick Scorton definitely been working on that. I mean, it's kind of amazing. Like if you put on a Nick Scorton film, you're probably going to see him try to hit the spin move. And at that size, it's impressive. So we got him taking home the gold here.
I haven't gotten a chance to tune in to Scorton, so I just fired up some Scorton film, and on the first drive, he did hit a spin move on the second pass play that they ran. So definitely was growing up on the Dwight Freeney tape and took some notes, even though he's a big fella. So I'm afraid I don't have a ton to add there, but I can definitely already see that he's going to this move early.
Maybe too much.
Right.
Let's work it back a little bit.
Well, Freeney also added the like half spin to like get the lineman to kind of bite on it and then get back out of it and get back outside. Maybe he can add that into his game for a counter.
That's the level 2 move. He's got to work that in. So, all right, our last IDP game then is wrestling. And I mean, there's certainly a lot of technique that goes into wrestling, but we're talking power rushing because you got to be strong. We're going to hit some crazy slams here on the mat. And the gold medalist for power rushing for wrestling is James Pierce Jr. And that's impressive. It's almost like the 280 player took the finesse spot and the 242 guy is taking the power spot. Like, how can this be real? When you convert speed to power like James Pierce can, like you're taking home a gold medal here because there are some Jared Verse reps on Pierce's film in terms of speed to power, land your hands, and the tackle just ragdolls. It's like these 300 plus pound men go flying backwards, falling into the dirt just based on the fact that he exploded so heavily into their chest. So that's, yeah. See, it's Camp Dynasty After Dark, but when we're talking about James Pierce, got me feeling some kind of way. So
James Pierce, I mean, there is a rep. I don't remember who they were playing, but he literally like throws a left tackle into the opposing quarterback. It's like concerning. Like this guy is huge and he's just like, yep, let me get under the pads and let me just toss you into. It's like what Reggie White did to I think it was Chris Carter blocking him, and he just like threw him into Dante Culpepper. It's like that, but with a full-grown offensive lineman instead of having a wide receiver matched up against you. So Yeah, James Pierce does a great job of controlling like every situation that he's in with an offensive lineman, and like strikes fear into an offensive lineman where they feel like they kind of have to anchor themselves a little early, and then he can use that speed as a counter to what he's already set up with the power. So, he's got the bull rush, and then he can use that to set up all his other great speed moves. So definitely deserving.
Yeah, he is a close silver medal, I think, in finesse moves as well, and he's a runaway in the power moves. So pretty good player.
Yep, pretty good.
All right. Well, those are the positional games, but we are not quite done yet. We have 3 games left. The Olympics are winding down here at camp. We've had some fun, handed out plenty of medals, but now we're going to open it up to all position groups. Everybody has a chance to take home a gold medal starting right now. Our first general game is skateboarding, which is an Olympic sport now, which is cool.
That is cool. I like it.
Yeah, I mean, BMX is in there, skateboarding. Like,
it used to all only be X Games, and it was like this nebulous kind of thing where it's like, when did the X Games happen? Shaun White's doing what? And then he was an Olympian, but Tony Hawk's doing what?
Yeah.
So,
I mean, skateboarding, it's cool. It's kind of edgy, maybe. We got some clips coming on of like 14-year-olds hitting like crazy kick flips and winning real gold medals. So where were you when you were 14? But in this case, we're talking just pure highlight reel. Who has the best highlight reel? Who's putting up that crazy trick that drops everybody's jaws? And we each came here with a participant, if you will. So we'll kind of each make our case, and then we'll see if we can come to an agreement on who walks away with the gold. But I'll let you kick off the skateboarding games.
So I had 3 finalists for to decide who my candidate was going to be. But I ended up with Luther Burden. What he did this season after the catch is kind of silly for a wide receiver. He runs like a running back after the catch, and I know that's said a lot, but also combine that with the athleticism that he has and the types of routes that he ran last season. Just an impressive all-around player with a pretty sick highlight tape of, making guys miss and running through DBs after the catch, and just having exceptional spatial awareness for a wide receiver, knowing where everybody is, without having to scan the field. You always hear about concentration drops being because they're turning their head before they catch the football. It feels like Burden doesn't do that because he has kind of like a sonar of like where the DBs are around him, so that when he catches the ball, he already knows what move he needs to go into next.
Well, Luther Burden must have hit the 720 triple deluxe kickflip special, because he's walking away with a pretty unanimous gold here.
Yep.
I also have Luther Burden here. So, yeah, I mean, he is the human highlight reel of the 2024-2025 class. I mean, whatever questions I have about how Missouri is deploying him and what kind of routes he's running right now and how that might translate to the NFL, all of those concerns just kind of go away when you turn on Luther Burden highlights, whatever 1080p YouTube title is, because, I mean, the things that he was able to do last year to kind of take over for this team, especially early in the season. I mean, both in terms of obviously his ability after the catch, which is his, elite trait and his hallmark quality. And everybody knows him for this, 8.8 or whatever it was, 8.4 yards after the catch per reception, which was truly spectacular. But at the catch point too, I mean, he's got some crazy catches from last year. He's got some catches in big moments. That Florida game, under a minute left, they're trying to get down the field to set up a field goal, and Brady Cook just kind of throws it up to Luther Burden, and he comes down with it in that moment, biggest moment of the game. I mean, he really was a walking highlight for this team, and it might not have been the most consistent season for Luther Burden, but when you talk about a player that is this young, that's, just entering his true junior season coming up here, that already looks like this, I mean, I think we're going to see an even bigger and better highlight reel from him in 2024. All right. So next up, we're hitting the track, baby. We might as well just say the 100-meter, because we're talking about the fastest player in college football. You can kind of cheat a little bit if you want to, because they put these numbers out. I mean, but hey, what does a rating really mean when Kyle Hamilton is an 89 in Madden? So
I don't even get me started on Kevin Byard being the same overall as Kyle Hamilton. Jesus Christ.
I mean, so what does it really mean at the end of the day? But I have to say, my choice, my candidate here for the gold is, in fact, Tez Johnson from Oregon. He is the fastest player in the game. Maybe this is cheating, but just turn on Tez Johnson. Just turn him on. I mean, he's 161 pounds. So will we be talking about Tez Johnson, 6 months from now as a wide receiver that has some genuine steam in this class? Maybe, maybe not. I mean, 161 is pretty significant even in this day and age, but when he's got these kind of wheels, man, maybe there's a role for him. Maybe there's a role for him in this new age NFL. 5'10", 161. I mean, the player opposite of Troy Franklin in the Oregon offense last year, just absolutely dynamite. Like some of the clips of Tez Johnson, you're like, was that Xavier Worthy? Like, that's the kind of acceleration that the player has. They get him on these crossing routes and he'll just house them because there's no way you can take the right angle on a player this fast. So regardless of whether or not he ends up being a real, high caliber NFL prospect, he's going to be on the radar because he's going to have another great season at Oregon and he's going to be really fast while he's doing it.
I'm going to put up a different candidate.
Okay.
So my candidate is Isaiah Bond.
Ooh.
Isaiah Bond used to run track in high school, so he is exceptionally qualified for this. How qualified, you might ask? Well, he ran the fastest 200 meter in the country as a high schooler with a 21.06. He also has a 10.48 100 meter dash. This helped him become a 5-star recruit going to Alabama. Now he's transferred to Texas. And now this is obviously not true, but Sportskeeda says it is. That he ran a 3.92 40-yard dash. So if he did that, I mean, it's not even close. He's the fastest man to ever. He's like the Flash.
Yeah. Test him. I mean, is he human? But I mean that. Yeah. I'll throw Evan Stewart's name in there too. I mean, very decorated track career for Evan Stewart in high school. He also is one of these guys that goes, football, track, and excels on a football field. But you know what? I'm good. I'm good to go with Isaiah Bond. We'll give it to him. Photo finish, gets the head out in front. Isaiah Bond brings it home. I think all three of these players are just electrifying and very fast. And we're going to see all of them in offenses this year that are going to optimize for their speed, or maximize their ability as speed receivers. So that's really exciting. Not something you could say about the Alabama offense for Bond last year. So now we get that at Texas and the other two guys at Oregon. So it's going to be a really fun season to watch all three of these names, but I like giving the gold here to Bond.
Correction, he's a 4-star. That's on me.
Yeah, it's okay.
I don't know how that works.
Fun fact, which I learned today, Tez Johnson is Bo Nix's brother. The Nix family adopted Tez Johnson like when he was a young person.
Oh, really?
So they are like adopted brothers for like years.
I'm sure everybody else already knew that. That's like in this deep,
Right.
But that's an insane thing that I just learned.
Yeah, I saw an article that was like Tez Johnson, celebrating his brother getting drafted or whatever, and I was like, Johnson, who was the Johnson that we had? And then come to find out, Nix.
That's crazy.
All right, last games, the grand finale here, and it's time to get a little nasty. Because it's the game that we were talking about at the top. It's rugby. It's violent. It's not always pretty. There's something called a scrum, I think, and I'm pretty sure I know what that looks like now after watching it today. So we're going to end things here with the nastiest player, the most physical, imposing player in college football. A lot of different ways you could go with this one, so I'm curious to find out who you are bringing to the table here.
So I was thinking about bringing Omarion Hampton back as since he won the weightlifting gold, but I'm going with Ollie Gordon here. When I mentioned Derrick Henry, I have thoughts a little bit about Ollie Gordon. He is a big physical player that can do a lot of different things coming out of the backfield. When we talk about catching passes, you talk about rugby, you got to be able to have soft hands and retrieve those pitches that are coming out of scrums potentially. You got to be able to turn on the burners and get down the sideline. They have those formations where they're kind of lined up and they pitch it down the side as they run, as people get tackled one by one, and then Ollie Gordon's coming out that other side burning down. And
you're just a closeted rugby fan, aren't you? You've just been waiting for this moment to be like, I know all the rugby things.
No, I don't know all the rugby people are like, God, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. But I think Ollie Gordon could get loose on a rugby field and break through some of these tackles from the average New Zealander that's out there trying to get him down on the ground.
We're pretty good at this. Ollie Gordon.
There it is.
Gold medal. I mean, what I basically did was like, think of the word nasty. What's the first player that comes into your head? It's Ollie Gordon. Because not only because of the way that he runs, which is very physical, very violent, can lower the shoulder and just, I mean, the Derrick Henry, like Ollie Gordon stuff, like you could tack a light on there and I might be we're talking
discount bargain.
Right.
Bin.
Yeah. Like whatever adjective you want to use to be like, he's not actually Derrick Henry, but like size wise, running style wise, upright runner that just like can kind of get loose from the backfield a little bit on passing situations that, Derrick Henry was doing it. There's a little bit of that here, but besides all that, I mean, he's got a fiery demeanor as well. He is definitely a player that like feels himself a little bit when he makes these big plays. He's chirping guys every time. He's yelling. He's getting very animated on the field. And that all goes into this because I think of, another player here, Colson Loveland. We'll shout out a tight end. Just fiery demeanors where you like to see that. Like, this is a football player. He likes to hurt people. He likes to take hits. He likes to feel that and get up and yell in a guy's face. Ollie Gordon is the embodiment of that at the running back position this year, and I think that's a good trait to have, especially when you're as talented as this player is. So, gold medal, Ollie Gordon.
I'm trying to see what the positions are called in rugby, but I'm having a little bit of, it seems like a fullback is a thing, but they are like a kick returner / like a free safety maybe. So I don't know. Interesting.
I feel like I'm going to learn a lot about rugby in the next few days.
I think I need to dive in. I think I am a rugby fan at heart.
Well, there it is, man. The first ever summer camp Olympics at Camp Dynasty, handing out some gold medals to our 2025 campers, and even a couple silvers and bronze made it in there. So all in all, good time, good events, and a lot of fun talking about these players. We're just continuing to prepare ourselves for the oncoming college football season in new and interesting ways. So we're going to watch the Olympics here for a little while, but by the time we come back next week, it's going to be August already. And then it's the road to college football, because the first game I saw on the Boise State schedule, August 31st is what Boise State has. So it sounds like we're right around the corner here from kicking things off, but we got some more fun to go through before that point. We are going to get into kind of, we got Feldman's Freaks coming up in a couple weeks. We got a little bit of a prediction, a switched up predictions episode that's going to be a little bit more camper focused. So we're going to get all of that in. But next week, coming off the heels of our summer games, we're going to dial it back to rankings territory, but we're going to reimagine things yet again. We're going to do Superflex. We're back. We're going to appease the Superflex fans. We're going to find out, because it's actually a very interesting conversation this year. Where do these quarterbacks fit in? How does a bad quarterback class or a projected bad quarterback class fit in terms of Superflex ranking? So I'm actually really excited to see how we both approach that. I think we could approach it very differently. So we're going to explore that next week.
Yeah, and we'll also be exploring what a phase is, what the Stellenbosch laws are, and how to score a try. That's what we'll be looking into.
This is a rugby show for the next 3 weeks. Like, till college football starts, we're just going to talk rugby every week.
Just want to know the strategy of a drift defense. That's all I want.
Who's the top rugby prospect right now?
Can we get a rugby analyst on this show? That's what I want.
Okay, there's my homework. We're going to find out.
We got to get our talent booker on that.
Yeah, right. If you enjoyed summer games, Camp Dynasty style, be sure to find us on Twitter at Camp_Dynasty and TikTok at Camp.Dynasty, and also subscribe to our YouTube channel, where video feeds of the pods do go up every single week. And of course, like, rate, review, subscribe, share, and follow the pod feed, because we appreciate that.
God bless a dump tackle, baby.
Man,
God bless America.
I got to get the rugby schedule in my phone. Like, if I got to get up at 5 a.m., so be it, man. I'm there.
So be it. Damn right.
So be it. Thanks for stopping by Camp Dynasty this week. We'll see you next week.